Hello, everybody, and hello from DevLearn. So Jess Jackson, who is usually leading the cohort, is in a session right now on leading the learning function. And so she has left the cohort to me today to work us through our agenda, as well as give a big shout out and hello from DevLearn, where we are masked and vaxxed and happy to get together. I'm actually looking at a bunch of people here at DevLearn. And we'll get to hear a quick hello from them in just a moment as we get ourselves set. And then today's guest speaker is Alfonso Riley from Caterpillar, who's going to talk about xAPI and generating the data that you need for artificial intelligence, which is super exciting opportunity to start using data for something that is very, very interesting. So I am super excited. I'm going to share my screen and we are going to push all my buttons here correctly and share my screen. So let's talk about it, what we're up to. So today we have social media tags. We have the xAPI cohort hashtag, the xAPI gnome, and Alfonso's tag is AF Riley M. So go ahead and show us some love on social media and retweet what the xAPI gnome is sending out for you today. Right now, we're talking about xAPI and the AI potential in learning after we get done with our DevLearn shout out. And we have 584 people who are currently registered for cohort, which is super exciting. So thanks, everybody. Like this is like completely strong. The whole all-time cohort population is now almost 4,000 people strong. And after 13 cohorts, which is 6.5 years of doing this is a pretty amazing and powerful community. And that's one of the things that I'm continually reminded of all throughout DevLearn as people come up to me and say, thank you so much. We met so-and-so or did so and such and did this in the cohort and we're learning and we're implementing. And I'm also recruiting more people to join you. So welcome, everybody. Today, I am hosting. We have Aaron and Jamie behind the scenes as producers, making sure that everything goes off without a hitch. And honestly, I could not do this without them. So thank you very much. You are not too late to cohort. And those of you who show up every week know that we share a lot of the same information every week at the beginning because there are brand new people joining and we want to make sure that they understand they're not too late to cohort. And one of the ways in which we make this an inclusive and welcoming community is we make obvious all of the rules and the expectations and the things that go on with cohort so nobody has to feel awkward like being the new person showing up later on. So our xAPI cohort format, we have a 12-week free virtual vendor-neutral learning by doing experience that can be done in teams or by individuals and a huge amount of community interaction. We have weekly web sessions. That's where you are today. These are recorded and the recordings will be posted out on the web as well as in the xAPI cohort Slack, which is where most of the project teams get together, do their work. They store their files on GitHub. And that means that the activity that you're doing now in your conversations and the files that you're creating are then saved and available for future cohorts and future people to get engaged and see what's possible with xAPI. The what's possible with xAPI is really powerful. And I can't tell you the number of times when here at DevLearn, I have pulled up the cohort Slack and said, look at these project teams. This is what people are doing with xAPI. It's super, super cool. We are on the home stretch of our curriculum arc, if you will, for cohort. Today, we're talking about xAPI and the potential in learning. We're going to have Say Schatz next week, Dr. Say Schatz, talking about xAPI and friends and how this standard fits into a larger ecosystem. And so this is really, I call it the state of the spec, right? We're in a big kind of global perspective are we sitting right now? We'll then wrap up with some case studies and some super cool team demos. So those of you on teams, be thinking about what you want to demo November 11th and November 18th. Those are really, really popular sessions for people to come and see. I am going to stop sharing my screen real quickly, though, and I'd like to have a few people here from the DevLearn introduce themselves and tell you what it is they are seeing at DevLearn about xAPI. Eric, you want to go?
Sure.
Awesome.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Eric from Spark Learning Float. I've been there a month, so I'm here kind of, I'm here just kind of meeting with people and seeing what's happening. It's good to be in the real world with real people again and seeing all the implementations that people are doing, especially with xAPI, because it's growing finally at a much larger rate. So
Very
thanks
cool.
for having us. Thanks, Megan. I'll pass it off to Chris over here.
All right.
Hey everybody, it's great to see you all again. I've really enjoyed DevLearn right now. It's exciting to hear more about ecosystems, the way the different tools are starting to interconnect, the way people are asking for expressive data. We've had more people than ever walk up into our booth and ask about xAPI, specifically CMI5, which I've got George here with me, and we're speaking on it later this evening at a larger session. And as a guy who's been at probably my 10th DevLearn at this point, maybe 11th. It's interesting to see the rise of xAPI and to see it come from just this weird buzzword to a functional tool that people are using. And with 4,000 people in the cohort army at this point, it's a strong community, and it makes me excited to link up with everybody in person for the first time. All right, I'll turn you over to George, who I think has his own interesting take.
Hi, everybody. George Vilches, Rusty Software. And with us, the CMI5 Rock.
Yeah.
It is live, and it is all geology all the time here. No, it's actually, since a couple of weeks ago, we spoke to you about CMI5 and Catapult. The conversations around CMI5 went from kind of thin on the ground to we have been hearing it every hour on the hour at this booth. The test suite is getting tested against LRSs rapidly. I'm having trouble keeping up with the pace of it.
Yeah.
And just here in the last couple of days, we're hearing from other groups saying, we're trying to get Catapult started. We're trying to actually get CMI5 implementations going on our LRS or on our LMS, because now we have the tools to do it. So engagement is higher than I've seen in a few years, and I'm really excited. Thank you, Megan.
Awesome.
Thank you, Megan.
And George, the CMI5, we have a project team this cohort working on CMI5, and they are going to be asking you some more questions on the Catapult test suite because they're doing some work today and found some blockers. So
We look forward to it. The calls we've had so far have been extremely insightful.
awesome. Cool. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the conference.
All right.
See you later. So, all right, and the question was, Chris, did you start showing up at DevLearn when you were 11?
I'm older than I look.
He says he's older than he looks. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. So that was super fun. Yeah, don't forget the rock. So that was super fun. I am going to turn it over to Alfonso now. So I had an opportunity a few months ago to talk to Alfonso, and we were talking about xAPI data and what he's doing and AI and analytics. And I said, oh my gosh, can you please come to the cohort and share this? So I am really excited to have you join the cohort stage, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Megan. And thank you for the invitation here. And let me see if I can work my screen magic here. Okay. So, hey, thank you for the thumbs up.
We got it. That's good.
Yeah. So, as I was saying, yeah, like the conversation we were having a couple of months ago, of course, with all this craziness about the pandemic, everybody locked down, and then the thing is, you cannot gather information face to face, which is kind of the way people like to gather information. I want to pick it up by myself. Now everybody's relying on data to be fed over and get analytics everywhere. And yeah, that conversation came on. I was like, well, xAPI has been around for a while, a lot of discussion. People that have constructing views, well, it's never going to pick up as true analytics or true spec for analytics, but it definitely has all this, the pandemic come over has really increased the desire to get more data on demand, on time, having the ability of the granularity around xAPI and all that stuff. So yeah, that conversation came on as in Caterpillar, we're doing a lot um, in our ecosystem. And I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out, hey, we have massive data, massive amount of data everywhere. Also, we're getting massive amount of data with xAPI as vendors start engaging in that journey, putting more information in it, being more compliant on that, having more vendors complying with xAPI. Of course, the natural thing is, well, AI, like how we connect this with AI and how we can use more of AI tools in learning and development. So it came that conversation, and as I was discussing with Megan earlier on, and said, well, yeah, well, we got to start a journey because this is just a start, and we got to start somewhere. Because like I was telling Megan a couple of minutes ago, the first thing, AI is not easy. So that's the first thing we got to have clear. Right now, AI is not easy, as most likely you have been hearing around old trends. Talent pool, you're not finding data scientists all over the place, and many and especially not necessarily interested in being in learning and development. So so that's kind of like and what I'm trying to get on today is provide a high level of what is AI, understanding AI at a very high level, and then see what opportunities can be brought into learning and development and how xAPI is part of the puzzle to get AI really enabling learning across the globe and across all our learning initiatives. Um, so I'll go with a little bit of myself, not to get too much on mine. So just a little bit background. So I am a digital program manager in Caterpillar, and I work for a division that is called Global Dealer Learning, which is focused on the development of our dealer workforce. So it's practically in Caterpillar, we got over 180 dealers that are independent business across the globe, and we work together with all of them to develop their workforce and providing them with learning solutions as well, from specific programs all the way to learning technology and how to manage their workforce and integrating with their systems as one key thing that we work very closely together with our members. So I've been there for 14 years, all of those, almost 15 years, all of those working in the learning and development area. And I've been lucky enough to be having different hats. I've been a technical instructor, I have done project management, I have done lean programs, learning experience design, and then lastly, in my current role, being more involved in the part of learning technology integration together with learning analytics. Okay. So kind of like the three topics I want to touch in, like I mentioned, is just to give you a high level of AI technology. What is it? How we can define it, all the mystique around it, and then going to a little bit kind of drive this roadmap on how this connects by looking at opportunities, the current challenges we have in learning and development, especially from a data perspective and decision making perspective, all the way on how we can start thinking of xAPI to connect with AI technologies, or what I like to call it cognitive technologies. So with that, I want to start with a question. So, and this is the first element around all of this is when you hear the word artificial intelligence or AI, what are one or two words that come to mind? And if you can put that in the chat, what is it that comes to mind when you hear about AI or artificial intelligence in one or two words?
Okay, Alfonso. So we've got a few words. We have algorithms, machine learning, advanced data analytics, the singularity, predictive technology, computers, 3 laws. Haley Joel Osment. Lots of creativity here.
And yeah, so it is a lot of things that are like, and if we start looking, very complex elements, data, as robots, androids, humanoids. Those are the classical ones when we start talking about AI. But it's funny enough. So when we are discussing all that and algorithms, machine learning, math, very complex math, human simulation, like the lead mentioned there, uh, is really one of the biggest challenge when we talk about artificial intelligence is how we define it. Because there's a lot of concepts. Something, hey, it's just the math. Others think, hey, is electronics engineering, all that. Others part, hey, is human understanding, is the science around human understanding, and working those things out. But having a clear definition of AI is key to apply it. And I'm going to bring two concepts here, that during all my journeys reviewing AI and as I've been researching around the area, I found interesting. And the first definition I want to bring on is very succinct, and is one from Professor Thomas Malone for MIT Sloan School of Management and their Computer Science Artificial Intelligence Lab. He defines artificial intelligence as machines acting in ways that seem intelligent. And probably this definition may probably link up to the Matrix. And the key thing about this definition I want to highlight is the end of the statement is that seem intelligent, because that emphasizes different point of view, because it depends what you consider to be intelligent. So a lot of that is when we start framing the domain of intelligence. So what do we consider intelligence? And based on that, we may consider a machine being artificial intelligence or not. Okay, or artificially intelligent or not. Okay, so this one is really like across the field, given that AI has multidisciplinary elements around it. Just aside from the computer science and the math, it also involves other elements. So a more in-depth or definition of AI is this one by McKinsey and Corporation, that was brought in an executive guide to AI, which is the ability of a machine to perform the cognitive functions we associate with human minds, such as perceiving, reasoning, learning, interacting with the environment, problem solving, and even exercising creativity. And I want to point out the elements at the end of the statement because it gives us kind of the steps to get to AI, to what AI is, and what are the different steps or elements that an AI system or an AI tool has to show to start considering that part of intelligence. And the first thing is perceiving. So if we bring it over to the human domain, is our senses. So we use the visual, touch, our different senses to collect data. And that's what really is happening when we're using our senses. We're collecting data and we're processing that data. And that's the part of reasoning. So it's making sure you can understand what you're seeing, what you're collecting, and learn from it. And when we talk about the learning process, is ensuring you got data and you learn, you reason on it, and you define something out of it. You learn how to do something with it, either a decision, a task, a skill, and then you apply that skill over in your environment. So it's a lot of what we do in learning and development with developing people is how we get those things in a machine to do it by itself. And a lot of these three elements that we're talking about, like perceiving, reasoning, and interacting with your environment, we have seen that. We see it today. Machines being able to perceive, to process, I will not say full reasoning, process, and some level of learning, so they adapt to changes, and then they interact with the environment. And then comes the more advanced skills that are facing a problem and sorting it out and finding a solution to a problem that is complex. And to solve complex problems where you have creativity comes in. So that's the evolution of AI. And to put it in kind of a roadmap way, uh, the way the area has been classified is looking at in three levels. And the first one is narrow artificial intelligence. So that's all like the small tasks. So a lot of that is what we have right now is, hey, you know, the computer can process faster than us, and can do low complexity tasks at a high velocity with a high precision versus what a human can do. And that is a lot of what we see right now. We have a lot of opportunity there. I will say you got very mature elements around the narrow AI and getting machines to do very specific tasks very well. And we have seen it with all the advancement in the last probably 5 years and how technology has taken over our life. Then comes the general AI. And I will say we're not there yet because general AI kind of infers that, hey, you know, now the machine works at the same level as a human being. Okay. And it can analyze complex terms, it can get knowledge, obtain knowledge, and then construct new knowledge on top of that knowledge and transfer those skills into different domains. And that's what humans do. So we do that. We start constructing our knowledge. So we start learning the basics. We construct the basics, and then we create new knowledge or new ways to address different elements. And that's where we get our creativity going on, our problem solving skills going on, and we can transfer all of that in different situations without having to be narrow by constraints. And then, of course, the one everybody's terrified of is super AI, is the machine being a lot smarter than us, and then probably taking over as the matrix for us. And of course, that deals then all the ethical implications. And I think a lot of it from what we discussed last week in data ethics and what a lot of the ethical dilemma around it, like things like what had happened with the big technology companies such as Facebook and L is how are we making it responsible for AI? Like, yeah, we know the capabilities are high, but making sure it's sustainable and that we can really become super minds in which humans and machines work together. And that's the key. And I will say, let's look at AI as a tool, not necessarily as a replacement of what we do. Because really, the idea of AI is making things easier, getting that known value stuff or routine stuff out of the way, and help us make faster decisions and really focus on where we can provide more value from a process or task or competency stand base. Okay. So how AI can actually help. So when we start looking at, and I love this term of cognitive technology because I think artificial intelligence is overrated as a term. We have just completely burn it out all these years that we have been talking about AI. And we really have to look at it from a technology standpoint as a tool. And that's why I love the term of cognitive technology for this. And it's looking at what are the problems that AI is going to solve for us. And usually the application of AI is bucketed in three levels. And one is process automation, which is probably what you've seen the most. You look at your bank system, fintech, a lot of the automations around financial systems and getting things done. The other one is cognitive insight, is providing information, recommendations based on large amount of data and summarizing for us. and we see it, and we see a lot of that and around our different apps, the different applications we use nowadays. And then comes cognitive engagement, which is being able to interact with a machine in a way that it seems human, sorting out a problem or finding a situation, or and driving that element that helps out. Hey, I need coaching, I need mentor. Can I have an idea and have an interaction with the machine which looks human-like? Okay, so let's go into the common forms of this. So as I think this one is widely known, so robotic process automation, or very well known as RPAs. And over in our AI, everybody likes acronyms. So everything is an acronym in AI. Okay. So when we're looking at RPAs, it's usually when you start setting your business rules. So a good example is if you go to your phone and you start looking at your phone assistant and start recommending, hey, I recommend like every time you go to your house to turn the lights on. And when you're in your location, turn the light on and like knowing that you're home. So a lot of that in a very simple way is what an RPA is about. Is you define a set of rules to get an outcome, and it's usually a very specific outcome. It's not something that varies. And usually the opportunity with RPAs is when you have a task that has high frequency, high volume, low complexity, is a perfect opportunity to apply an RPA. And usually is things like system administration when you are in your learning management system. Things like, hey, processing users, creating business rule, assigning users learning based on a specific rule. Those are things that RPAs can help greatly to solve out. And like I said, there's a lot of software or applications that can help quickly develop this into your ecosystem. Now, some of the challenges around that are, you got to make sure that your process is sound. So the RPA is going to be as good as the process you design for the RPA. Okay. So if your process is ineffective or lacks really solid structure or logic, that's the way the RPA is going to perform. Okay. Also, the thing is, you gotta have well-defined inputs when you're using RPAs, because they depend a lot on what you're telling. What are the triggers for them? So they need well-defined inputs. They also are not good at learning. So they say, hey, just tell me what they need to do. Don't tell me, hey, can you think about how you do this? No. Tell me what I need to do, and I just need the inputs, and I'll run my routine 24/7. So those are some of the challenges there, but it can take off a lot of that repetitive work out of a system. And usually you see an application of RPAs in the background of your learning systems or any system, because it really is all those tasks. You really don't have the time to do it because it's too much data, it's too volume, but it has a very well-defined pattern on how to work with it. Okay. So when we start looking at some application examples, we have automatic data transfer. So a lot of the ETL functions, like, hey, move this data from this system to this system. So it sounds like why I want to do that, but in information technology, that's a very important task all around. Automated notifications, when you got triggers like, hey, certain conditions pop up, and you got a business rule. Hey, notify this user, they got to do this. So it's a lot like credit card fraud, things like that you can have there and set it up. And then one that I think is very key in the learning and development area is content tagging, auto tagging, because it's creating specific rules on how to tag all that content you start putting up, and especially when you start using user created content, how you classify it and make sure that whoever your learners can find that content, can align to what they're looking for. And it's all this work of how categorizing your content in a way that the user can discover it easy when they go to your learning systems. Okay. Now, then comes the big one. So there's a lot of talk about machine learning algorithms, and practically everything over that one really is what all of this AI is based on. This is really the brain. This is the algorithms that create the brains of AI. And it comes down into the cognitive insight. So this is all about math and stats. So this is really the advanced analytics, the advanced data analytics. So is having the ability to go through massive amount of data. And I think Megan on one of her presentations talk about big data. And in learning, we got a lot of data, and we don't have time to look at all that data. And the MLAs really, like simple MLAs, can help you just summarize that, keep it in a way that, hey, now I can understand it. I can understand it, or I can review it, because, and especially if you really didn't like your stat class, that's where MLA is trying to simplify. It's trying to simplify all that heavy math statistical analysis you got to do, and provide it you into simple terms. And that's the biggest challenge around that. And then the other thing is all these MLAs, with a combination of MLAs, they can work together and create a system, and create a full function to work in, and also connected with RPAs can give you a full solution. It can give you a full solution of working together and really achieving a meaningful outcome. But of course, the biggest challenge is somebody has to train the model, and is understanding the data. And I have had that situation. Like, for example, I meet up with an information technology engineer, and we start saying, hey, like, I need this model for learning, and we go like, okay, so just give me the inputs. Like, wait, no, you got to understand how we do our learning program, and you got to understand that this region does it a little bit different than this region. So I need to know how I can connect this with this and this with it. And then when I start throwing all the degrees of a differentiation of what we need to say, this is crazy. This is too customization. This is too much code. You got to train the ability. You have to have a full research just to figure out what you're going to do with the learning programs, and what you want to get out of the learning program, and all the activities, all the differences on the human reactions, on the way we learn, the environment, all the factors that affect learning comes to play. Because when you're looking at this, if you start eliminating one of those, you start creating bias. And the moment you create bias, your algorithm is just going to work for whatever you set it up for a bias. And that's the only place it's going to be efficient. So those are some of the challenges with the MLAs. So a lot of the work, and MLAs have multiple levels, and the old stuff, I would say the old MLAs, all are based in supervised learning. So this is structured data, categorized data, everything's labeled. You know what you're seeing. You don't have to start driving too much conclusions around what is the data or how it correlates. So you got well-defined structure on it, and that's a big opportunity in learning and development, because if you have good taxonomy and you keep good maintenance of your content, you should have good solid base for working a supervised learning algorithm. Then when we go with unsupervised learning, and I will go back, the thing with supervised learning is it's only gonna be working with the data that you already are collecting. So it's working based on what you already know. The question is, well, what happens with what I don't know? And that's a lot of the other question in learning and development, because we say, hey, formal training, you get 10% of formal training, then you get on the job training, and then you go performance. The performance piece is very difficult to collect all the data around that. And that's where unsupervised learning and all the other elements of learning algorithms start working, because it's unstructured data and working models based on things that you don't necessarily know how they connect or can do correlation analysis and all that. So it comes back into using those algorithms to train the model to figure it out on themselves. Okay, and that's what you do with the most advanced techniques for machine learning. In the case of deep learning, that then goes more into neural networks and all those fancy words that we hear that we don't understand. And then it becomes that black magic of artificial intelligence. Okay. So with some application examples is in the MLAs is predicting user behavior, detecting and analyzing anomalies in performance indicators, and the famous one, automated personalized recommendations, which is, I think, the one that we see the most. We love it. We see it in Netflix. We see it in Facebook. We see it everywhere. Everybody's trying to recommend something to us and we all have to give thanks to marketing for that. So then we got NLPs, or natural language processing. And this is really where the holy grail comes in. And it's a machine learning algorithm. It's mainly focused on analyzing text. So it gives you a larger capability of analysis, because it's not only looking at numbers, it's being able to take text, discrete elements, and start creating a story, a data story around it, and give you some insight, and even providing some outcome and interaction to it. And this is like the ability to speak to each other. And the key challenge here is, of course, the language. Hey, just as challenging as to learn a new language for a human being, imagine trying to train a machine to learn all the languages and analyzing and feeling your sentiment and knowing how you feel just based on what you're saying, and then translating all those elements around it and making decisions about it. And of course, it has the problem of it has a high effort to implement. You need a lot of experts around this because it's not easy. And it's and the integrity of your model, again, bias. It's gonna depend on how you use your training data and where you're looking at your training data and how you define your models. And that's where it starts getting tricky, because it just goes into, you say, a rabbit hole where you start focusing. I want to solve this problem with NLP. It can go very deep, and then it may not be replicable in other sections or transferable across domains. So where NLP can really help in NLE, some of automated translation. We see it with Google. We see it with software as Grammarly and elements that, hey, they detect a word, they give you recommendations, they do auto text, so all that. And in NLP, there are two elements. You got natural language generation, which is generating the text based on data. And then you got natural language understanding, which is understanding text and transforming it into data. Okay, so it's the input, output, input process there. And with those two approaches is how you really create that cognitive engagement. And some opportunities there is, hey, I see a large amount of data and I give you recommendations and automated summaries. So this is what's going on here. This is the situation in this place based on all the data points that they're collecting, and transforming the data into words, in things that are comprehensible for the user, the end user of it. And one of the things that it can deal is, hey, imagine you being a supervisor, a first-time supervisor, and get guided recommendations on how to work with your employees based on performance data, situation data that is collected from your employee, in which you can provide a guided recommendation, a clear recommendation, and make sure that it's an effective one, and knowing why you're doing it. So it also helps in that part to improve that learning and performance processes. Okay, so let's go now then into the opportunities in LD. And I want to bring something from J.D. Dillon that he wrote over in the ATD's 2020 Trends in Learning Technology Research, and is where are the opportunities for AI, or where AI is being used in learning and development. And the chart is kind of looking like, if you look at the right hand of the chart, is the activities or where AI is being implemented the most or adopted the most. And you will see it like in your almost every LMS, like industry leading LMS will tell you they got personalization, they give you content recommendations, they have a chatbot, They provide auto tagging. All those are the marketing pitch you're getting from all those system vendors. Hey, we can do a smart search. You can find smart content, like all of this. But then when you start looking on the left-hand side, which is the least adult functions, are the ones that the business want. Gap identification. I want impact analysis. I want smart coaching. I want to like make my people smarter so they can develop my people smarter. Content authoring, especially when you have a lot amount of content and you need to improve the content, and it's difficult to maintain the content current and all of those things. Translations, especially with a diverse workforce, is making sure, hey, I provide the content in the language so the learner has better ability to learn this stuff and master the skills. And of course, is the big one is system administration, which focus specific on managing all this complex world of ecosystem of learning systems that we got to work on. So it's interesting when you start looking at it and say, hey, the challenge on the left hand side is the reason why AI has had so much difficulty to be adopted there is because it starts to become very customized, very specific on the needs of the industry, on the needs of the business. And you start getting little nuances in which the algorithms start getting more complex. And you don't have enough people to work on it. And we've seen on how much resources we give to our HR departments, learning and development departments. Hey, you're not going to get a full-time data scientist or 2 full-time data scientists. That is reserved for marketing. That's reserved for customer relation. That's reserved for that side. So big corporations are not going to give you their key assets that they're developing their business for HR. And because that's the challenge is, hey, you got to bring the value. And it's difficult for HR departments and learning and development departments to show the upper level, is because they ask, it's like, okay, what is the impact of this course? What is of this learning program? What is the return on investment? And usually that's the question. And usually learning and development departments had a hard time proving and showing the data to say, hey, this is the value of it. It's a lot of just experiential facts around it. Say, hey, we improved this program and it was successful. We saw and the customer loves it. But it's like, okay, so how much? What was the real impact? Give me crunch the numbers. And that's where we have a challenge from a learning and development perspective, that it's difficult for us to put it all in business terms because we're creating humans and not machines nor resources on that part. So it's difficult to quantify all those things. And that's what makes it difficult to justify investment in this kind of project, because still it's expensive what you got to do here. Okay. So as I mentioned, so just some examples when we look at learning personalization, key things that we talk about, we know smart search, learning recommendations, even virtual coaching around it, getting your own coach telling you, hey, this course is good for you, this content is good for you, this pops up, you may be interested in those things, as well as real adaptive learning, like learning, not necessarily that we configure and prescribe how the learning is going to go, is that actually the learning adapts to what the learner needs. And it's based on the interactions of the learner in multiple systems, and then integrating all that into one. Also, it comes the part on performance coaching. And we try to talk about learning performance analysis, which is one of the challenges of the supervisor. And keep in mind, the most influential person on any employee is their supervisor. And all the investment that we make to make the supervisor more successful in their work is also an investment that will return on the employee, because he will make a more efficient workforce, a more engaged workforce, because they're going to have, hey, feel that they're supported. So some of these elements, putting these tools to the supervisor for them to be actually performance coach, which that's really the role of the supervisor, is make sure they coach their employees, they drive focus and make sure they have an engagement workforce. So these are some of the one that, and I will tell you, Megan, I thought about this one. It's like, I will dream of having an automated human performance intervention recommendation engine. It's like, okay, so for this employee, what do I need to do with this guy? If it's not engaged, what I need to do? Like based on the data, the recommended apps, it's like, hey, probably you need to take him to dinner and have a talk. Okay. So, and one of the other ones in which I think in xAPI is key for this one is the learning experience design and development. And it's a lot of how we manage translation, how we can curate content faster, because all of these things take time. You need subject matter experts time, you need the instructional designer time, developer time, multimedia guy time. And for example, something that I always love from PowerPoint right now with Microsoft is, hey, design ideas, and start telling me design idea. And practically all this presentation was worked through the AI from Microsoft and PowerPoint. And so I am not a creative expert in imaging. I love black and white, but hey, let's make it interesting. Show me the views, and those same type of activities can help on the design of your learning content in whatever modality you're putting in it. Okay. So let's go into what are the opportunities with xAPI. And high level, we know what xAPI brings to the table is the ability to digitalize every learning experience. So it's the ability to collect data from an experience and transform it into the digital realm and then analyze it. And this is all done with all the different, you got IoT devices, you got whatever you do in the learning management system, all these digital tools you have around, they digitalize those experiences and bring it into a common language that you can analyze. And that's what xAPI is. It's an enabler of the language in which you normalize your data in a way you can really analyze it. Instead of trying to transform all the data from all the different sources and try to figure out what is it that you're getting. And it all comes into the digital learning ecosystem. So, and I put this in terms of instrumentation and control engineering. So is all your learning modalities and the learning systems behind it, or the tools behind it, are your data collectors. So it is knowing where you capture those experiences, and then making sure they can generate that experience and transform it into xAPI statements. And then that's where the learning record store comes to play. And it normalizes all that data and gives you the flexibility to do a lot of things with the data. And it's not that the LRS is going to process the data, it's just normalizing. It's your translator, your interpreter of what's going on outside, and then giving you the ability to put any system that analyzes data or works with data to do something about it. And that's where we go into the data processing side, in which, hey, I want a visualization dashboard. That's what you do with your car. Your car has a bunch of sensors. The dashboard shows you, hey, you're running at this speed, you're running low in fuel. Then is all the part, and then it brings the opportunity to do more than that. Recommendations, creating, integrating with other systems, integrating with other data sets for analysis, because it's bringing that learning data and even connecting it with business data. And that's some key elements that a lot of the business say, hey, I want to see the learning, I want to see correlation with the business, I want to see the learning impact there, and really see the value of this initiatives and connect the dots and create that story we all looking for. It's like, hey, here's the holy grail. Okay. So when we go into some opportunities with AI, is understanding the framework. So you got to have a clear vision of where your data is being generated, and is looking at your learning touch points, like, and how are you capturing that data. And there comes a lot of your spec on all your learning systems and acquisition methods, making sure you can transform it into meaningful xAPIs, so you can actually do something with that data. And that's the flexibility, the beauty of the flexibility of xAPI, that you can put a lot of context on what you're capturing, and you can customize it and all that with different ordering tools that you get around, and different systems, and working with those learning systems to ensure, hey, this is what I need to capture and need to translate it into an xAPI, then you can start your AI journey by applying supervised learning models, because then you got structured data, and that's the beauty of the LRS. The LRS is already giving structure, and you can do a lot of things right from the bat with not having to invest a lot of money. So you can use things that are already replicated outside, and then you don't need a full battalion of data scientists to work on this. Okay, because you already got a structure. You just need to replicate. You can use a consultant firm that tells you, hey, or your own learning system provider if they have the expertise to get it done and get you and work the AIs to get you rolling. And a lot is like creating automated workflows around the LRS. So it's the exchange between systems and using the LRS as the intermediator there, as well as doing advanced analytics and give you insight and generating insights by pushing things to other BI tools or advanced business intelligence tools from the LRS, and the LRS being capable of interact with those things through APIs, giving that xAPI information, and through a set of APIs, open APIs, you can create powerful routines around your AI system, right, and get your cognitive technology running at a very fast pace without having to go with the high investment. Now, just to summarize this and look at what the application opportunities are in learning and development, like after you've seen a big emphasis is going with people development planning, and it's all these things like enabling the manager. And I think that's one of the biggest opportunities. If we can create enablers, use AI as a tool that enables people to do better their job, especially on the supervisor in a learning and development initiative, we are going to get a lot of that return investment there when you apply the initiatives that you can actually provide insight, guided, it's a more effective prescription of learning around it. And of course, that's where like the holy grail lies on. The other part is learning experience design. It's getting fast prototyping, fast generation of content that is meaningful, because hey, we all know people can generate a lot of content nowadays with digital, but that doesn't mean the content is good. Okay, so those are elements that need to be with AI. We can ensure that hey, we start identifying things that work, things that doesn't work. Hey, take this out, it's not going to work. Put this in. Hey, and then even discover, hey, have you tried this from here and try to embed it here in your design? Like things, hey, in social media, you're getting this. Hey, probably let's make more engagement around it, given that you have a similar goal. You're driving engagement, how we can do that. And then it's coming into learning asset lifecycle management. It's the administration part of it. Okay. Now, of course, the challenges are the common ones. You got to have IT. And IT is a lot of things. You got to know your data. If you don't know your data, you're doomed. Also, your process must be sound. So the learning design consistency, xAPI profile consistency, and of course, data literacy. If you don't have professionals of learning and development that know the data, you're not going to get the end result. Okay. Now, with that, I want to summarize current opportunities just to say, hey, a lot of emphasis on learning experience personalization and administration, and of course the learning experience development, and they're all tied together. So it's not that you can focus on one and leave the other behind. They're all tied together. So we got to think of going through the AI roadmap as building blocks, just like xAPI is a building block for creating data, learning data analytics. It's the same thing with AI. It needs to be building blocks. You start one thing and then you start integrating until you have a full solution. And of course, the barriers are in the learning and development where we need to be more comfortable with data and be willing to look at the data and learn how to process and evaluate data. And then of course, hey, our programs, they can be very complex. So that's why we need to know our data well and understand well our processes, and of course has the backup of the technology on the IT infrastructure and the resources to do that. And with that, Megan, I just have some reference for you to have, and I believe they will have a copy of this slide deck over to them. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfonso. Thank you so much. And yes, everybody will get a copy of the slide deck. So I appreciate that so much. Alfonso, I'm going to, in order to be able to get our team updates in here, I'm going to have you take a look at the chat. You have some great questions from Martin and from Chetan, and so you've got some, and they're close to the bottom there. So if you could answer those in chat, that would be fantastic. What I'd like to do now is have an opportunity to take a look at our team updates for the week. So quick reminder of where we are in the cohort itself. So we are right now on week 8. So projects are getting some serious shape and starting to show some results. So we're in the home stretch. Projects are more mature. Of course, it's never too late to join cohort. So you can, by all means, start thinking about a new project right now if you want to. But you've got some great questions in the chat there, Alfonso. I am going to call on and remind everybody, if you'd like to give an update today, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. But I'd like to have Jamie invite Martin to the stage and give an update on Team CMI 5. Brian Duck, you are on deck next. Martin, are you able to take yourself off mute and share your update? There we go.
Where am I? Oh, there.
We got you.
Hello, can you hear, see? Oh, right, wrong camera. Oh well, I'll fix my thing. Okay. Bad camera. I've got a better camera, but rather than fiddle with that, I'll just go with the bad camera. Okay. Okay, so this is Team CMI5 Create AU. So we're trying to use the comprehensive testing system or content, I can't remember what, CTS, content test suite. So we're trying to install it into Docker on various people's machines. So we have something that we can actually start testing out some CMI packages on. And we had a lot of success last week with George helping us out during our meeting last week, October 14th. So we got it different members of the team got it installed on different platforms, different versions of Macs, like M1 type Macs and Windows and things like that. As Megan mentioned, there's been some other blockers, so we're still working on that. But that's just to get to the point where we can start actually making some courses. So our goal is to, so create some courses, start off simple, CMI5 course with a single AU, play it in the player, and then start experimenting. So if we can get this working, then let's try video. Let's try sending xAPI statements while we do it. And there's a number of current authoring programs that support AI, CMI5, not AI, sorry, not yet, but CMI5. And so we want to try and see what they can do. It was really interesting last week because as we worked through and found some bugs or blockers, it was amazing the speed at which George and Chetan and other people's were just like back into going into terminal, and we're like, what are they doing there? Oh wow! Oh, and then up comes the bug fix. So they've done that. So I think this is a really good process to sort of start to get some real world testing of this. So now what we need is people who want to, that was pretty techie last week, but now we need instructional designers who want to create some existing, some content using existing e-learning applications and export them. And then people who've already installed the players can test them, tell them how they're going. So we want to do that this week. test them out, and start to add some xAPI statements within the AUs and send them to the LRS. So we want to start using it and testing it and get more complex. And then the next level that is future is to have, say, a course with an AU that's everything's in the LMS, but then an AU where you have stuff outside the LMS, which we learned isn't really well documented or whatever, but we want to try and play with that so that you can get that potential of CMI5 to have things outside the LMS. So things like mobile or on a desktop or some other, I don't do IoT, but I'm sure you could do something like that. But anyways, that's sort of the progress.
Oh, Martin, it looks like we lost you midstream. Sorry about that. So, Brian, I know we're running late. I wonder if you could give us the quick update on your teams, xAPI profiles and Down Under.
Yes.
Are you
hearing?
We can hear you. We are
Okay.
all no.
We'll leave the camera alone then. Team xAPI profile, we're able to successfully meet with Jason Haig of Veracity, and he talked us through a bit of the development process for the xAPI profile server, as well as giving us some guidance on the history of video about example profiles that he has published for NETC or the Department of the Navy. And I just put a link in the chat for his video. It's also out there on the update server, so you can see that. One of the things he mentioned is he has shared with us a template, what he calls a human readable template, and he wants to talk to the IEEE about having it published as a guide for how to build human readable documentation. Sort of a companion to the profile server, the profile being the computer readable template with JSON LD. He wants us to publish the human readable side so people have the documentation to go with it. In our upcoming meeting today at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we are going to walk through one of his examples, the common reference profile that he published for the Navy, and look at that human readable template side by side with what is up in the xAPI profile server. So that's our plan for this week.
Awesome. Lots of great work being done there. Thank you so much. Hello, Khalid. What have you got going on with your projects?
Yeah, hello. I'm fine. Actually, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I'm very glad to be a member for this cohort. I have frankly speaking, I started xAPI not more than 2 weeks ago. I didn't know what is xAPI before that. Anyhow, I have a question. I will be responsible for establishing like data collection from various LMS platforms. I would like to know, will the developers write each and every line of code for any activity that the learner will do, like pausing a video, starting a new course, or whatever? Like, do developers have to write each and every code using JavaScript or backend programming language, or there are some ready tools that will help developers accomplish that easily? Because writing these lines of code will be a very big job for these developers, especially if they are designing their LMS platforms using different languages and different authoring tools. So that was just my question.
You know, Khalid, that is a fantastic question. I'm going to recommend that you put that into the main channel in the xAPI Slack, and that people respond with the kinds of things that have out of the box and code-free xAPI statement sending, and then the kinds of things that might require that that every line of code actually get written. So that's a great thing to crowdsource from the group in the Slack channel. So thanks for that question. That's a great one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'm going to give us a little quick rundown here of what's coming, and then we'll let you off and into the rest of your day. We have a shortened and easier to use xAPI session meeting link for next week. Same place. You can use the old link if you want, but if you can't ever find the old link and want to just go to xapicohort.com/session, we've got you covered. Thank you very much, Matt Cleaver, for that. Next week, as I mentioned, Dr. Say Schatz is up with xAPI and Friends, how the standard fits in the larger learning ecosystem. She's from the Advanced Distributed Learning Group of the U.S. federal government and leads the group that has shepherded and commissioned the xAPI. So we are super honored to have Say join us next week. In a couple months, not even a couple months, the December 10th xAPI party, which is a showcase of what happens here in Cohort, as well as other sessions from practitioners and vendors and service providers and all around the world. So super excited. More details about time and everything will be forthcoming, but you can sign up for xAPI party. Of course, it is free, and we can't wait to see you there. If you'd like to send any questions, comments, or concerns, email us at xapicohort@torranceLearning.com or send us a message in Slack. We will see you online. Let's go out there and make something cool, everyone. Have a good one.